In 2015, the Australian government announced plans to cull 2 million feral cats by 2020. This plan was back in the spotlight after a New York Times article published in April 2019. It's a decent article. Makes for a pretty slow news day in Australia though, but it grabbed the attention of a lot of people in other parts of the world, and the internet has been nothing but supportive. Let's read some comments. Australia, I thought you were better than this. Kill humans, save cats. Well, I really thought I liked the Australian people, and I wanted to visit the country. But Jesus Christ, you sure put an end to that. Well, that's not supportive at all. It's almost as if the internet knows nothing about Australian fauna. Well, that's not quite true. It's a well-established fact on the internet that everything in Australia can and will kill you. Tiger snake, deadly. Funnel web, deadly. Platypus, how did you make it on the... Aww. But other than that, the internet knows nothing. Do they prefer enormous-sized spiders over cats? Yes. How cruel. Beautiful cats. This is despicable. Oh please. Australian animals are way cuter than cats. This guy just melted my stone-cold heart. So did this guy. Look at his little nose and paws and oh god, why? Let's hope the cats win. That's like going to Africa and backing the poachers, you numpty. You might still get your wish though. We once declared war on emus and lost. It was our Vietnam. Firstly, let's clear up a misconception. Feral cats are not stray cats. Stray cats are pets that have escaped or have been abandoned. They can be rescued and adopted. Feral cats, on the other hand, are descended from cats that were brought over by Europeans around 200 years ago to protect crops from vermin. Some of them escaped and have been proliferating in the outback ever since. They are wild animals. For the love of God, do not adopt a feral cat. So why are feral cats such a problem? To answer that, we can turn to the Australian national anthem. One line in particular, our home is girt by sea. What the national anthem fails to elaborate on is that Australia has been girted by sea since the Cretaceous period. Australia has been almost completely isolated from all the other continents for 100 million years, with the exception of land bridges to Southeast Asia during recent ice ages. 100 million years is plenty of time for evolution to produce a very unique array of wildlife. However, other continents have a wide range of large predators such as big cats, wolves and bears. Other than dingoes, Australian carnivores are mostly just small marsupials. The ecological niche of apex predator is just waiting to be filled, and now it has been, by feral cats and foxes, which have no natural predators in Australia except maybe for dingoes and wedge-tailed eagles. The feral cat population in Australia is now somewhere between 2 and 6 million, and they're absolutely everywhere. Of course, this has upset the natural balance. After having been isolated for so long, the Australian ecosystem is a delicacy. The Australian ecosystem is delicate, although I guess it is also a delicacy for invasive species. But just how delicate are we talking? To help answer that question, let's firstly take a look at the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species, which ranks species by conservation status, largely based on population stability. The list has 7 levels: least concern, near threatened, vulnerable, endangered, critically endangered, extinct in the wild, and extinct. With that in mind, let's take a look at the golden bandicoot. It's a small marsupial that used to live all throughout this green area, and this is it now. The golden bandicoot is classified as vulnerable because there are stable populations on Barrow and Middle Islands, but it's nearly extinct on the mainland. Conservation status alone doesn't paint the full picture, and if you think I've cherry-picked an extreme case, well then buckle the fuck up because here comes a depressing montage. That's terrible. And they're also adorable. Looking up these stats was honestly a little bit heartbreaking, and I think I can speak for most Australians when I say that even I didn't realise how bad the situation is for some of these species. All of these mammals and more have been impacted by feral cats, and that's barely scratching the surface. I didn't even get to birds or reptiles yet. Time for another depressing montage. Just kidding, look them up yourself. Let's take a step back. When I was in primary school, my family lived in a small town called Narrogin, which is a short drive from Dryandra Woodland Nature Reserve. Dryandra is one of the last few remaining places where you can still see this guy, the Numbat. I lived in Narrogin for 6 years, went on numerous school trips to Dryandra, and I never saw a single one. The Numbat is the state animal emblem of WA, and most West Aussies have never even seen one and probably never will. Certainly not in the wild. We should just make the state emblem a griffin. You're about as likely to come across one of those. My brother reckons he saw one once. A Numbat, not a griffin. Feral cats clearly have to be dealt with, and that's probably going to mean killing a lot of them. Why not spay or neuter them all, as some have suggested? Well, that's a pretty big job. Let's see how that would go down. Hey, do you love animals? Yeah. Do you want to be a hero? Yeah. Well, then I've got the job for you. Alrighty. I want you to travel around Australia. Uh-huh. See the sights. Uh-huh. Look for feral cats. Uh-huh. And if you find one, uh-huh, cut its dick off. What? Cut its dick off. How many cats are there? Possibly up to 6 million. And how big is Australia? Over 7 million square kilometres. Right, so less than 1 cat per square kilometre. Exactly, what do you think? Sounds like shit. What, you love animals? You want to be a hero? What's the problem? I'm not gonna hack my way through 6 million cat genitals. You don't have to do all of them. I said no! Well, that was pretty silly. But I think the point still stands. Also, let me get this straight. You want to catch them, spay them, and then what, release them back into the wild? Are you kidding me? Just end them. Well, that was violent. We need a plan that's more effective and more feasible. Like airdropping a bunch of poison sausages across the country, for instance. So that's what we're going to do. Naturally, people have raised some concerns. Would the culling of feral cats allow mice and rats to flourish? Probably not. Mice and rats might be a problem in urban areas, but not so much in the outback. Would pet cats and dogs be at risk? No, we're not showering our cities with poison sausages. Wouldn't the poison also kill native animals? The poison in question is known as 1080 and contains sodium fluoroacetate, which is produced by plants of the Gastrolobium genus, which is native to Australia. As a result, many native species, particularly in the southwest, have developed an immunity to the poison. This makes 1080 pretty good for targeting introduced species. We've been using it in fox baits for over 20 years with great success. You thought we were targeting cats and letting foxes get away with it? Nope. 1080 isn't perfect. Animals native to eastern Australia are less immune. It also doesn't provide a quick death and is therefore not considered particularly humane. However, the consequences of not using 1080 far outweigh these considerations. Some 300 native species, including 1 in 3 mammal species, are considered threatened, and we've already seen how hard it can be to make that list. 60 animal species have gone extinct since European colonisation. Feral cats are recognised as a threat to at least 80 species. They are by no means the only threat to Australian wildlife, but they are definitely one of the biggest. Habitat destruction as a result of human activity can easily wipe out a local population, but invasive species are not localised, which is why they have so much potential to drive native species to extinction. Doing nothing is not an option. Deploy the sausages. Australia is known for their love of nature and animals. I'm pretty sure they know what they are doing. The end.